It's a good one. It's a good one, guys. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into yet another Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. I am your host, Rob Haytayan. Join with me are my three co-hosts. You know these guys by now: Nick Franco, Andrew Quinn, and Seamus Zarlingo. Guys, the Boston Celtics take a commanding 2-0 series lead over the Orlando Magic in a 109-100 win at the TD Garden tonight, guys. Obviously, no Jason Tatum, missing his first career playoff game, 114 in a row for JT before missing tonight's game. However, with no Jason Tatum came the Jaylen Brown show. Brown obviously popping off tonight alongside Kristaps Porzingis, guys. We're going to get into all that, all the individual play. You guys know the drill here. Our initial thoughts, reactions, takeaways from the Celtics picking up a Game 2 win.
Can we I don't even know what to say about the series when it comes down to the physicality of it, because you're not going to see this type of matchup throughout the rest of the playoffs. It feels like the Celtics have the Orlando Magic's number, and the Orlando Magic understand that, but they're not going to leave this series quietly. So we're going to see the series continue to be physical like it was today. We saw Kristaps Porzingis leaving with a battle scar, looking like Kratos from God of War, just with the big old line of blood down the face. But the Celtics are not getting phased and getting like tempted by any of this little brother type of basketball play that Orlando has been throwing out. It's a physical game, a lot of fouls, bringing the Celtics to the free throw line, and the Celtics aren't just feeding into it. And it no Tatum, no problem tonight for the Celtics. Jaylen Brown was able to step up for the Celtics almost seamlessly. Those questions about the knee were answered during game one, but tonight was much more of a comforting game to watch about one concerned about the knee. So just getting out of this series healthy is the main goal for the Celtics at this point. There's not much that the Celtics really needed to expand upon from the last game, and it was kind of the same game plan. Obviously, Orlando picked up the intensity a little bit, tried to up the tempo when during the game prior they were playing at their own pace the game, but Orlando, if they fell off a boat, they couldn't hit water tonight throughout the first half of this game. So, and then during the fourth quarter, they were able to maintain and try to keep the Celtics on their toes, but that's just the quality control that we've talked about the Celtics team all season and praised them for.
Well, out of all the playoff series so far, this one might be the most physical and it might be the most grinded out series because tonight, although the Celtics controlled for most of the game, just felt like the Magic were creeping up there on the doorstep pretty well the whole game until the end when the Celtics kind of committed towards that sea of green just a little bit there in the fourth quarter. Where they were kind of toying around with, an above a 10-point lead during some portions. And it was going back and forth. Celtics would grab a near double digit lead, then it would be whittled down to 6, whittled down to 4 here and there. But the Orlando Magic, they just didn't have enough firepower to go up against the Celtics in this game. And it's what we've been talking about this entire series so far. It's only been one game, but we've talked about it ad nauseum. This Orlando Magic team is just putrid offensively, and they cannot push the pace and win a game against the Boston Celtics. They just cannot. And you saw the best moments of this game, and even in game one for the Celtics, was when the Celtics were aggressive in pushing the pace. And a huge player that had to do with that tonight was Jaylen Brown, 36 points on the night. We've been talking about his knee, but I mentioned it on the Celtics Nation Rise podcast earlier this morning with Andrew. You were on there. We were with Griffin and David, and we were talking about, well, this could be the best case scenario for Jaylen Brown getting some of his sea legs under him and getting some rhythm under his feet coming back from that knee injury. He missed nearly 2 weeks. and then comes back in game one. Looks a little stiff here and there, but in game two, came out. There were some slow moments, but otherwise, he was just aggressive. He was driving the paint. He was getting after in transition, coming up with deflections, and he's easily. I mean, I guess we don't spoil it on top of the screen anymore immediately, but I'll spoil it. I mean, Jaylen Brown, he's going to be our player spotlight later in this show because Jaylen Brown was just everything and more for the Celtics tonight, in a night where they needed it from him. Jason Tatum not in the lineup, and Jaylen Brown takes the torch away from Tatum and comes up with a 36-point performance, and he is the clear leader and the catalyst of what the Celtics were able to do out on the floor and what they were able to do well in particular, and that was creating turnovers, running in transition, being aggressive. I mean, you look at the aggression of the Celtics tonight and the physicality. They knew coming into tonight's game and they knew coming into this series, this was going to be a physical series against the Orlando Magic. And the Orlando Magic were going to try to muck it up. Well, the Celtics came out tonight with the expectation of that and matched the physicality and even gave it back to the Magic in a lot of moments. Al Horford, he was revved up tonight. He was ready to go. He was playing to the crowd. He was a little frustrated with KCP there in the middle. I'm sure there's some game one remnants there between those two guys, but there was that hard rebound too. I believe it was right at maybe before halftime, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was after halftime. Not sure on which side of halftime it was, but Horford came up with that big rebound, and it was that felt like a moment in the game where things kind of swung towards the Celtics because the Magic, they were locked down on a possession, and KCP threw up a last minute shot, and it felt like the crowd. It's like, oh, if that shot goes in, oh, the Magic, they silence the crowd and they get something out of a possession where the Celtics just played hard the whole time. Instead, KCP misses the corner three. Three guys go up for a rebound. Two of them are Magic players. One of them is Al Horford, and guess who got the ball? It was Al Horford, and he was absolutely phenomenal in being aggressive tonight. And we see throughout the regular season, I mean, come on, he's not playing like this in December. We got to remember next December, next November, Al Horford is a different animal come April, May, and June. He was phenomenal for the season tonight. And of course, so was Jaylen Brown, and just keeping on the attack, being aggressive, being physical. And that was the name of the game for the C's tonight, other than just running in transition, pushing the pace within this game as well. And you see, it was a relatively low scoring game. Once again, 109 to 100. Congrats to the Orlando Magic for reaching 100 exactly. I mean, exactly 100. I mean, come on. That's like, it feels like a joke, right? It's like, oh, they're not going to reach 100 during the series. And they're like, watch us. We're going to exactly 100. That's what the Orlando Magic did tonight. But you saw it. They just, quite frankly, the Magic don't have enough firepower. Their shooting is utterly horrendous, and it just feels like the Celtics are going to outshoot them in every game this year. Because I mean, in the first half, I will say they were outshooting the Celtics both from a makes perspective and just field goals, and that's again the name of the game for the Magic in this series is they need more field goal attempts than the Celtics. Now they were doing that early on, but and throughout the game, I would say it fell off. Now it ended nearly even. The Magic did take a couple more field goals than the Celtics, but it ended nearly even in that regard. But that's where the Magic they have to gain that advantage, and the Celtics can keep it close. I think the Celtics are going to be able to outshoot them for most of this series. And you see tonight, Orlando did shoot a little bit better than Boston. You see that 3-point percentage from Orlando, 24.1%. That is really the killer for the Magic. They are just trying to beat the Celtics threes with twos at some points in the game, and it just does not quite work out for Orlando. Another big aspect of this game tonight, though, 40, or sorry, not 40. The Celtics, they out rebounded the Magic tonight, and they were out rebounding the Magic at the end of the third, 46 to 31, 35 to 22 at halftime. And the rebounding that kind of shows the physicality, as well as the 33 free throw attempts from the Celtics tonight. I don't know if I mentioned that already or not, but 33 free throw attempts for the Boston Celtics tonight. And that really, that stat right there, when you're getting to the line 33 times in a playoff game, I don't know if we've seen the Celtics get to the line 33 times all year, yet they get to the line 33 times tonight. They hit a good percentage of their free throws, and you see that plays a huge role within this game, especially when the Magic, they have to gain those extra possessions. Well, they're not doing it if last game the Celtics held the Magic to only 11 free throw attempts, and then tonight it's not even about holding the Magic to in any amount of free throw attempts. It's about going ahead and shooting 33 free throw attempts yourself if you're the Boston Celtics. And that's looking at this game tonight. It's almost I don't want to say the same as game one. There were a lot of differences within the ball game, but some of the concepts within this series remain the same. And the Magic, they have to play at a slower pace against the Celtics team and try to muck up the game. And they're doing their best. They're doing their best at trying to execute that game plan, but you see in the end, it's not enough come fourth quarter against the C's when, especially Jason Tatum's out of the lineup. Jason Tatum, this is where the Celtics, they're so deep. Tatum's out of the lineup. Brown comes about, and he just starts going off in this game. And you see the Celtics, that's where the options and the depth comes into play. Because the Magic, they didn't have Boncaro. I mean, seriously, how many points would they put up out there? Would they be in the 70s? They be in the 80s? Because it's not only about Boncaro scoring the ball, it's
That'd
about
be in the
his
lottery.
creation out there. Yeah, exactly. It's about his creation for others out there as well, and that's just what the Magic do not have at this point in time. Is the creators the Celtics have, and we see it bears itself out in the end of these playoff games and just throughout this playoff game, and that's what we see tonight. The Celtics they outshoot the Magic from three by a little bit there. Some of the possessions are a little bit the same, but the Celtics have the free throw advantage. They have the rebound advantage, and they're taking some of Orlando's strengths. Coming into the series, we thought Orlando, they have to get to the line, they have to rebound against the Celtics, and well, who wins those battles tonight? It's the Celtics. They win the rebounding battle, and Orlando, they lose the free throw battle. The Celtics win the free throw battle against Orlando, and that is taking away from Orlando's strength. And it's why the Celtics now find themselves up 2-0 in what feels like an easy 2-0 right now, even though the two games very physical for the C's, and I'm sure they'll feel it later on, but 2-0, cannot complain about it. Feels very I like in the past we've gone up 2-0 in first round series and it was like, whew, well, it's like, oh, we just went up 2-0 on the Bucks. Like that was grinded out physical. Oh, we went up 2-0 on the Sixers. That was grinded out physical. This series, I mean, it's physical, but it doesn't feel like the Magic really have a shot at the C's at any point in time. It's like they're playing from behind constantly, and I'm interested to see what it could look like on the road moving forward because this Magic team, at what point are they going to kind of, they've given their best punches to the Celtics so far in games 1 and 2. Do they have an extra punch in game 3 or not? That's still to be foreseen. But as this series goes along, as the Celtics are beating the Magic as their game, you got to think there's going to be some morality that fades away in that Magic locker room at some point in time. The Celtics harboring a 2-0 lead, one game away from a 3-0, which is basically the death sentence for any NBA team in this particular spot. It would be the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that you covered, and I think one thing that stood out to me was the Celtics' ability to crash the offensive glass, to create second chance points for themselves, and they just gave them more opportunities on the offensive end, and it kind of allowed them to, maybe the Magic got up a couple more shots than them, but Boston was able to compete with the Magic by hitting the offensive glass and out rebounding them. And then from the Magic perspective, like you're gonna, Paulo Banchero, Wagner, like they're gonna get theirs, right? Because they hold such a high responsibility on the offensive end. But it's those bench guys that need to contribute for them, and they just don't have that firepower on the bench that to really make an impact. So it's just important to make sure that we continue to, we can contest Paulo Banchero, contest Franz Wagner, make their lives difficult. They played 43 minutes, So on the defensive end, it's a lot harder for them to contain guys and play good defense, So it's just, sure, the Magic can keep with us and kind of keep it close, but when it comes down to it, it's just going to be tough for them to finish out games considering the volume of playing time that these guys are taking on. And then also I just want to say, like, it's getting a little scary and I just want to get out of the series because these guys are being physical. And like we talked about it recently, we were out with text, it's like these guys are going to do anything they can to scrape out a win. And as we see it, we're going to talk about it soon, but like guys are getting injured. So I just want us to make sure that we put these guys away in 4 so we can avoid any further injuries.
Absolutely. There's a couple things that tell the whole story in my head. One of them being the rebounding that Seamus, you talked about. famous quote from Bill Parcells, right? You are what your record says you are. Something we talked about here before the series even started was that Orlando and Boston kind of play a similar style of basketball, except Boston does it at a 60+ win rate and Orlando did it at a 44 win rate. And you're starting to see that. I mean, Orlando, Boston's not necessarily doing anything out of the ordinary, right? They got out and ran a little bit tonight, which you see at spurts at times. It's very normal to see Boston go out and run. They did it again at times. They extended the lead in the third quarter doing it. But for the most part, Boston was in their half-court offense, running the ball through White, Brown, and Porzingis and getting open shots, attacking the rim. That's nothing out of the ordinary. Boston just simply has more talent, and that's showing up in the shot distribution. I mean, look at Andrew, you nailed it, right? Wagner and Banchero are going to kind of get theirs, right? Their volume of shots are going to be so high this playoffs, and they're going to rely on them so much that they're going to walk into these 25, 30-point nights. I mean, Banchero led the Magic 25. Wagner then had 20. Outside of that, you didn't have a single guy reach over 10. You had KCP was the second high or third highest with 9 attempts, 1 of 9. You had Carter who had 8. You had Anthony Black who had 8, and you had Corey Joseph who had 6. On the Boston side of things, the most you got was Jaylen Brown who had 19. And then you had 14 from Porzingis, 14 from White, 10 from Horford, 11 from Pritchard, 9 from Holiday. So that right there tells you the story of the Celtics versus Magic, game. You didn't even have Jason Tatum in the lineup, which, mind you, that's another 18 to 22 shots in the distribution category. Obviously, guys are going to get pumped up a little bit with him out of the lineup, but you got 6 guys taking the same amount of shots essentially as 2 guys on Orlando. And that's the difference right there. When you look at this matchup, it really is a 2 versus 6 offensively from the Orlando Magic side of things. They just do not have the offensive weaponry to keep up with Boston. And you're seeing that, and give them credit from a defensive standpoint. They are making life difficult on Boston. They are grinding out these possessions. They are keeping their man in front of them. Tonight, they did a pretty poor job at keeping Boston off the free throw line. Mind you, I will be completely honest. The officiating from both ends of tonight was terrible. I thought the refs just, played themselves too a big part of a game. And honestly, the whistle favored Boston tonight pretty clearly. And I'm okay with that, right? I'm not complaining about it. But from an Orlando Magic standpoint, it's tough when you are the aggressor and you don't have the whistle. It's going to backfire on you. But as a whole, I like what this series brings. And I know it's injury and it's scary, but this is the perfect type of first-round matchup Boston needs, because it's going to keep them engaged. It's going to keep them active. And Boston can't go to sleep and win these games. We've seen at times, 2023 against Atlanta was a prime example. Boston kind of went asleep. They lost 2 games they shouldn't have. And as a result, they still won the series, but habits creeped up and they fell asleep, and eventually it caught up to them at some point in the playoffs. This series, Boston needs to stay awake for, because if they don't stay awake for it, Orlando will pounce and Orlando will take a game or 2. And Boston knows that. And Boston's done a great job at staying focused, staying locked in. And again, a win tonight, in my opinion, anytime you can pick up a playoff win when your best player's not in the lineup, it's a really, really good win. So again, not flashy, not super great for the average fan to watch, even though game 1 was the most watched game. But it was a good win. And again, you're up 2-0 on the road with an opportunity to close out this series with a potential, 3-0 lead, with hopefully Tatum coming back to the lineup. It was a very stellar performance from the C's. But let's take a look at the lead tracker tonight, guys. And Seamus, you alluded to it. That Sea of Green came and really that third quarter. And I know it started in that second, but that third quarter was really the catalyst to the Celtics extending the lead against Orlando.